So right before the holidays, Elon Musk dropped what he pitched as a kind of early Christmas gift for the world, a brand new image editing feature for his AI, Grock. Well, that gift blew up into a massive controversy pretty much overnight. It sparked this global firestorm over AI, online abuse, and just how ancient our laws really are. What happened has really forced us all to talk about the huge, massive gap between the tech we have in the 21st century and the laws we're still using from the 20th.
And this was the announcement. This tweet right here. I mean, on the surface, it's a joke, right? A little edgy, maybe. But it was also Musk declaring a pretty powerful new capability for his AI. He clearly thought it was hilarious. He was tweeting out images of himself, a toaster, even Kim Jong-un in a bikini. But, what happens when you hand a tool like this over to the entire internet?
Well, the answer came fast, and it was ugly. Almost immediately, users started weaponizing this tool. They were digitally altering photos of real women and even children without their consent. They were basically undressing them, putting them in all sorts of sexualized situations. It was gross, it was exploitative, and it raised a question that gets right to the heart of this whole mess.
I mean, it feels illegal, doesn't it? Morally, you just think, there's gotta be a law against this. Well, the answer is way more complicated than you'd think. And it really exposes just how unprepared our legal system is for the world we're living in now.
Okay, so to really understand the legal fight here, we have to get our definitions straight, because not all harmful or sexual content is treated the same way by the law. And these little distinctions, they are absolutely crucial to this entire story. So the law has these very different buckets for sexual content. On one end of the spectrum, you have consensual adult pornography, which is actually legally protected speech under the First Amendment. On the total opposite end, you have CSAM, child sex abuse material. That is always illegal, period. But then there's this giant messy gray area right in the middle, NCI, or Non-Consensual Intimate Imagery. And this is where most of the AI-generated abuse lives. It's a total legal minefield. And we're not talking about a small problem here. It is exploding. According to the Internet Watch Foundation, just in the last year, there was a 26,000% rise in photorealistic AI-generated CSAM. I mean, we're talking about AI models creating custom-made, extreme, and incredibly harmful content, a lot of times featuring kids you can actually recognize. And Grock was a huge part of this explosion. Users were prompting it to create some truly vile stuff. At one point, it was cranking out 6,000 images an hour for just the prompt, bikini. It was adding simulated semen, blood, bruises to pictures of women. It even put Holocaust survivors in bikinis in front of concentration camps. And that brings us to the real conflict. So this is the core of the problem. Our legal system is basically trying to fight a digital wildfire with a bucket of water from 1973. The laws we have on the books were just not written for a world where literally anyone can create an infinite number of photorealistic fakes just by typing a few words. I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows you the fundamental disconnect. The main test we use for what counts as obscene comes from a Supreme Court case in 1973 about mailing physical magazines. And the law that protects internet platforms, Section 230, was written before Google was even a thing. These rulebooks were never, ever designed for generative AI. Now, at the heart of this whole legal debate is this thing called Section 230. It's basically why YouTube can't get sued if someone posts a nasty comment on a video. It treats the platform like a public bulletin board. They're not the publisher of the content. But AI just throws a massive wrench into that whole model. And this is the multi-billion-dollar question. Sure, the words you type in are user content, but the image that Grock spits out, that's made by X's own bot. In fact, on the platform, it literally shows up as a post by Grock. So who's the publisher now? Is X legally responsible if that content breaks the law? The debate has gotten so intense, it's pulled in the people who literally wrote the law. Senator Ron Wyden, one of the original authors of Section 230, is not mincing words. He says Section 230 was meant to protect what users post, not what a company's own AI generates. He thinks platform-created content is not protected, and for him, quote, it is not a close call. So as you can probably imagine, the backlash to Grock was fierce, and it was global. With the legal framework all up in the air, politicians and regulators all over the world started scrambling to react to what looked like a child abuse factory operating right out in the open. The pressure was coming from everywhere. The UK launched a full-on investigation. The government of India demanded answers. Malaysia and Indonesia, they just banned the feature completely. And back here in the US, states like California started asking for victims to come forward, which is usually a sign that legal action is coming. In response to all this, the U.S. Congress proposed a bipartisan solution they're calling the Take It Down Act. It's basically copied from copyright law. So a victim sees an abusive AI-generated deepfake of themselves. They flag it, the platform gets notified, and then they are legally required to take it down. Sounds simple, right?
Yeah, not so fast. The whole thing is riddled with loopholes. Like, what legally counts as an intimate image? How do you deal with stuff that might be parody or art? And here's the big one. This is just a removal tool. It does absolutely nothing to stop the content from being created or spreading like wildfire in the first place. It's a bandage, not a cure.
And that really brings us to the most unsettling part of this entire story. After all the outrage, all the political speeches, and all the proposed new laws, we're left with a really, really uncomfortable truth. This is probably the most important thing to understand. Musk and his company basically walked right up to the legal line, put their toes on it, and stopped. As vile and exploitative as all that content was, most of it didn't actually technically break the law as it's written right now. And here's exactly how they did it. Laws against this stuff, like CSAM, are often super specific. They ban things like actual genitalia or specific sexual acts. But programming an AI to put a dental floss bikini on a person who's fully clothed or putting skimpy clothes on a child, that exploits those narrow definitions. Morally, it's abusive, but legally, it lives in a loophole. So you have to ask yourself, why do this? Why invite this much controversy? Well, one theory comes down to market share. Grock is a tiny, tiny player in the AI world, with only about 2% of the market, compared to giants like OpenAI and Google. So maybe Musk figured that generating exploitative images was a shortcut to getting users and attention. He certainly tweeted a lot about Grock's download numbers while all this outrage was happening. And this is the final and maybe the most crucial point. It's not like the AIs from OpenAI or Google can't create this kind of stuff. They absolutely can. The technology isn't the problem here. The barrier is an ethical choice. They choose not to let their products be used this way because they've decided it's vile and irresponsible. This wasn't a technology failure, it was a policy decision. Which leaves us with this massive question. When technology is moving faster than our own sense of morality, who's responsible? Is it the user who types in the nasty prompt? Is it the CEO who sets the rules? The programmer who builds the AI? Or is it the lawmaker who just fails to keep up? The Grock controversy didn't give us any easy answers, but it made it painfully clear that this is a question we just can't afford to ignore anymore.